Well, okay, so.
That's brilliant. Can we go now?
Yeah.
It's really nice. That's what I'm Simon Hattenstone from The Guardian. This is Maxine. And it's an incredibly nice welcome. And it's one that I think if I was in the audience, I'd do, because I don't really have heroes, but she's kind of verging on a bit of the heroic for me. I'm sure every one of you knows what Maxine's done, but I've just jotted down a few, from, Shameless to Three Girls to Hamlet to Dinner Ladies to Silk. She's just brilliant in everything. And also...
Thank you.
And I don't know if any of you have noticed, but, kind of a lot of actors don't really do opinion. They don't have opinions about things.
I don't, do I?
Yeah. Maxine is like that, but she's kind of just slightly more reserved. Doesn't like to talk it straight. So I think you'll get kind of, you get art and you get politics with Maxine. So we've flagrantly nicked the Desert Island Discs format, and we're expecting the BBC police to come in any moment and carry us off. But Sodom, Thank you, Roy Plumley. Let's go. How important, Maxine, have documentaries been to you?
Very important. I suppose maybe one of my first initial sort of forays into film and what got me interested in film was through documentary. And I suppose the style of sort of drama and then, non-documentary sort of work that influenced me, and the kind of style of acting that I was always fascinated by was sort of, as close to documentary as possible, really. It's about, as an actor, what you want to do is try and create real life, I suppose, and be as true, real life, but be as truthful as possible. So documentaries have always been a really good source for me.
Because the documentaries you've chosen are amazing because they are also like art, aren't they? It's an amazing selection that Maxine's chosen, and it was a fantastic education for me because it was some films that I'd never seen, and true to Maxine, they've got politics, they've got art, they've got everything. So should we go to the first one? Do you want to tell us a bit about the...
What is the first one?
The first one is, appropriately enough, it's the alcohol years. We just went for a drink.
Yeah, we've just been in the bungalow and bears and bung.
Very nice it was
I
too.
don't quite know what that... How do you get the two together?
Alcohol years.
Oh, alcohol years.
Yeah.
Oh, right, yeah. Just, Anyway, alcohol. Carol Morley's Alcohol Years is the first.
Yeah.
Is the first one.
Do you want to tell us a bit about, we're going to see the beginning of this film. Do you want to tell us a bit about why you chose this?
Yeah, like quite a few of the sort of my favourite films, I sort of always stumble across them. It was usually after a night out clubbing, and you turn the telly on about 4 o'clock in the morning, and there'd be something you go, oh my God, this is amazing. And this happened with Carol Morley's film, The Alcohol Years. I can't remember, I was working in Manchester. I think I just left drama school, and I'd come in one night from a night out and I put the telly on about 4 in the morning, and this film came on. I'd never heard of Carol Morley before. I just sort of watched it and quite transfixed by it, and for me what I loved about it was that sort of, it was sort of I hate that term, the Manchester scene, but it was sort of pre that, and it was a female point of view, because you sort of, I didn't sort of realise when I look back, that music was a massive influence on me, but it was very male. So there was the sort of, at that time, it was a very sort of female take on that, but also it was very a personal story about Carol and dealing with the fact that her dad had committed suicide. And as a young, she'd entered into that club scene very young and sort of been taken advantage of when you look at it, sort of. So I just absolutely, I thought it was a fantastic sort of, it captured that period brilliantly. And then about 4 or 5 years later, I got a phone call from an agent, and my agent at the time, and said, oh, we've had this young woman called Carol Morley's room. She wants to meet you for a short film. I'm saying it's a no, isn't it? And I went, Carol Morley. I said, no, I've got to go and meet her. And she went, oh, Max, you're not doing any more short films. No. Anyway, I insisted. And I was absolutely petrified, because from watching Carol's film, I had this completely sort of well, a misguided idea of Carol was, oh God, she's going to be quite intense. And then I met her in a little cafe in Soho, some sort of spaghetti bar in Soho, and Carol sort of walked in, who was this sort of, well, you've met Carol, she walks in a room and completely lights up, doesn't she? She lights up any sort of space that she enters, and she's quite extraordinary. So then I began to work with Carol, became collaborators. I did a couple of short films with her, then I did her first feature, then I did a feature, The Falling. But, you know, and I remember at the time, the second feature that she was doing, she'd offered it to me, and I'd at the same time been offered 3 episodes of a well-known BBC TV series. I'm not going to say what it is. I think it's a kids' programme, but I'm saying no more. Anyway, and I said, no, I'm going to go and do the short film. And I remember my agent at the time going, oh, I think me and you need to have serious talks about where you're going artistically and creatively. And we did sort of part company after that. But it's the best thing I ever did was to work with Carol. And I could see she was an author, I could see she was an artist. And it was tapping into really that, the way I wanted my career to go. You know, you start off acting, you're just really grateful for any job that comes along, and then once you get your sort of feet, you know, under the door, it's about then fulfilling yourself as an artist, and being able to say that as an actor, that you are an artist, because I was always quite shy about it. Go, no, I just act, I just say other people's lines. But as I've got older, and, you know, I've done different things, working with the Eccentronic Research Council and people like that, just, you know, branching out a little bit and feeling a bit more that I can not blush too much when I sort of say, I'm an artist.
Oh. We're going to watch a bit now. James, can we have a bit of The Alcohol Years, please? For anyone who's not seen it, fantastic. It's astonishing, isn't it? 'Cause it's so... It's the honesty, isn't it? And one of the things I noticed when I was looking through Maxine's films is that they're almost like kind of poems, a lot of the documentaries you've chosen. And
that Carol's feels like a poem. It feels like a poem to Manchester, because Carol, it's quite interesting, because I think somebody says when she sort of left Manchester when she was about 17, and it was before the sort of e-culture kicked off and the rave scene, and somebody said if you'd have hung around for that, she probably would have been dead by now, you know what I mean? You know, I don't know, but I think what I loved about Carol's film is that you find out about somebody through other people. Carol never talks about herself in that film. She put an advert in the paper, like I said at the beginning, if you knew me between this period of time and this period of time, get in touch. So she interviews all these people who had very vastly different experiences with her. So you build somebody's, you know, character through other people. And actually what you find out more is you find out more about the people that have been interviewed in a strange way than you do about Carol, about what emotion she evokes in people. And they're very, again, they oscillate quite wildly between different sort of hate and love, and some people absolutely adored her, like some people saying she was manipulative, some people really hated her. I think she managed to get under people's skin. She obviously broke quite a few hearts, you know, and Carol, she had a very sort of fluid sexuality as well, so it was quite interesting. And again, I suppose that feeds into my work as an actor. I always think you build a character from, we were all taught at drama school, you break a script down, it's what everyone says about you, what you say about you, you know what I mean? You find a person's personality about what other people actually say about them.
And do you relate to the Manchester of that time? Because you grew up in
I was a bit
Bolton,
later. I grew up in Bolton, which is like 15 miles away, but about 15 years away in some respects. You know, and I was sort of first hit Manchester when I was about 14. I remember sort of friends going, let's go to Athlete's Palace, and I thought, oh my God, it's going to be full of like punks shooting up, like tripping, you know, you'd be stepping over sort of smacked out punks on stairs. Yeah, exactly, and there was Simon on the stairs. Yeah. No, but you know, there was this myth about Manchester, and I probably I was probably a bit of 14, probably a little bit of a late start in some respects of getting into music and that going into Manchester. But yeah, I always felt an affinity with before. I wish I'd have been that 10 years previous. I mean, I'm 42 now, but...
I love the way she uses the music in that film. It's so kind of atmospheric, isn't it? And it's so... The images are so kind of...
And she was a big... I mean, I think Buzzcocks, is it Blue Eyes, Love Lies, that's supposed about a Bizarre Love Triangle, New Order, that's supposedly about Carol. I'll say no more. But yeah, so there's all these... She sort of had a big... She had a big influence at that time, you know, with... You know,
and when you grew up, were you kind of, I know it was later, but were you on that clubby scene? What kind of kid were you?
Yeah, I was. I first sort of got into, I was more of an indie rock kid, and then I got into the club scene.
Who were you indieing with?
Well, I was a bit of a, I started off as a bit of a cliche, really. I did get into it was my, I suppose when I was younger, my first foray, don't hate me for this, but my first foray into music was sort of like the Style Council, but that came through Red Wedge and,
Style Council?
I know, I love the Style Council. I know Paul...
You don't need to be embarrassed
I
here,
know, but Paul Weller's embarrassed about the Style Council, which really upset him. I think some of his best work.
Yeah. I'm only...
And we were all, there was a bit of that new wave. When I was growing up, where I grew up on the estate, it was sort of new wave mods, scooter boys, rude boys. So you sort of influenced by what's around you. And then when I hit about 14, 15, the Manchester scene was kicking off with the Roses and things like Milltown Brothers and, oh God, there was all these sort of, didn't you sift through Enemy, finding the most obscure band that you could sort of claim as your own.
And did Manchester seem very different from Bolton?
God, a million miles away. There was nothing.
There
was two pubs in Bolton. There was the Boar's Head, which is no longer in the Blue Boar. Boar's Head was sort of 16 and under drinkers who were into indie music.
Balls.
They're both balls, yeah. And the Blue Boar if you were 18 plus, and it was more of a punk sort of... Yeah, Bolton was quite behind musically. You're either a punk or heavy metal.
Yeah.
There wasn't... No, there was a few mods knocking about within the centre, and anybody else would go into Manchester.
And
really.
What about you? Did you grow up like kind of thinking you want to act, you want to go on stage or go in movies? And did it seem feasible?
No.
For you?
I wanted to act, but I didn't know. It wasn't really movies. I don't quite know what I wanted to do. I just remember when I said, and again, I don't want to sound disrespectful, but when I first said I wanted to act, everyone said, ooh, I could see you behind the bar in Coronation Street. And I remember from an early age going, that is not what I want to do. And I think not because I've not, and I think
Who said that?
Oh, just friends and family. But that was the point of, that's what could seem as a reality, I suppose, if you were working class and from the north. And I've no disrespect for, I think soap actors work extremely hard, and I think it's you've got to be a bloody good actor to work those hours and knock something, pull something out of the bag on. So it's not about that, but I remember from an early age going, that's not what I'm going to do, because that's what everybody expected me to do. So I thought I want to do something different, because if I were northern with this accent and working class, then if you did want to act, it was, the giddy heights was Coronation Street, really. I mean, when we used to say, but look at Thelma Barlow, she's got a lovely house in North Yorkshire. So that was,
Which bit?
I don't know, somewhere in North Yorkshire.
And did you know what you wanted to do if you were going to...
No.
Did you...
I wanted to do theatre at the time. Again, because tell me what I can't do, and that's what I want to do. So I was told I wouldn't be able to
Why did they say to you that you can't do theatre?
Because theatre was classical, wasn't it? You know what I mean? What are you going to do? And at that time I remember being at school and Jim Cartwright's Road came out, which was a massive influence on me. Yeah, which again is like it's a poem basically, isn't it? And it's a poem, it's very, a lot of the locations are sort of, Bolton based, even though it's never said specifically. But Wood Street Club, which was Wood Street Socialist Club, the Nevada, the Brothel on Wheels, was the roller skating club that got burnt. We used to go to on a Saturday, and have a bit of fumbling and, not me and you, obviously,
yeah.
But...
I was a bit older. I was just thinking I can't remember that. Yeah.
But, so... Yes, but apart from that, it was classical. It was all down to accent, wasn't it, and class and what. Yeah, and I was in an environment where I didn't know any actors. There was nobody in the family. There was nobody in the extended family. I had no friends. Nobody had any contact. So it seemed like a million miles away. And it was that thing that when people don't know, they just tell you can't do it, rather than going, I don't really know about that. Maybe So it was, yeah.
And did you come up against like northernism? I've just made that word up.
Northernism.
Yeah. Is it northist people? Did you kind of when you started acting? Did you find...
Of course you do. Because you go in for meetings and they go, you do realise it's set in Surrey, don't you? And you think, I can read. We do have some form of basic education up north, which does... So there was a lot of that, and stuff that you think, crikey, would you get it? I suppose they still get away with it now. I've got a lovely...
Didn't they say that you had to lose your accent at one point because she was university educated?
Yeah, a lot of that. It was always, can you move a little bit further down the M6? What does that mean? She's middle class. Right. Well, people in the north can be middle class and still have an accent. And Silk was a case in point when I went for the meeting for Silk, and they, after I'd got a chat with the director, and he went, and what are you going to do with your accent? And I went, what do you mean what I'm going to do with my accent? He went, well, she's a barrister. She's been to university. I went, I've been to effing RADA. You know what I mean?
Who was that?
Pardon?
Which director was that?
Well, Michael, he was called Michael Offer. He's Australian.
Is he still called Michael Offer?
Offer, yeah.
Yeah, it's Michael Offer. We got you, mate. I think we should go to the second film, which is, it's called Gallivant. And it's directed by a guy called Andrew Kotting. Again, if you've not seen it, it's brilliant, and you couldn't in any way go out and tell someone to make a film like this, could you?
No.
Tell me why you've chosen it.
I think for me, what I loved about probably it was one of the first films of its sort of genre that I saw when I went to drama school. You know, I've been to see films. I wasn't a big film goer till I went to drama school, and I spent a lot of time sort of sat in cinemas on my own, sort of discovering stuff. And this was one, I think it's sort of, I was at drama school 95, so it might be 96, 97, something like that. And I just remember reading the bill and go, oh, this sounds quite interesting. It was like nothing I'd ever seen before. But what really stuck with me was it was about relationship, about generations. Eden, who's Andrew Kotting's daughter, who has a form of sort of cerebral palsy in it, and he's in his grandma, her great grandma, and again, it's just taking in the British Isles and the eccentricity of it. And I love this. You know, I hate this country sometimes because of its bigoted and blah blah blah. But then I have a massive love for it as well, and all our eccentricities. And you know, I think we have a fantastic. I do think we have a fantastic country. I love folklore, paganism, all the stuff that I'm a big fan of folk horror. There's stuff that really comes from our sort of past and culture. And this sort of ties it all together. But I suppose what really spoke to me was the relationship between the generations. And I had a very close relationship with my step-grandfather, which was invaluable to me and my sort of, I suppose, development as an artist, as a person. And this speaks a lot with that.
Let's see the first bit and then get back. If I forget, remember to get back to Max's step-granddad.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Jim.
And Jim.
Jim, yeah.
And the first bit is, Eden is deaf. You softy.
Yeah. Oh,
you know what? The first time I saw that, when I saw the intro and I was watching it on really bad YouTube, and I did think, what the fuck am I watching? Yeah. So if anyone else saw that, but I do think as soon as you've watched that film, you want to watch the beginning again. Yeah. And it becomes incredibly moving. Yeah. Doesn't it?
Yeah, no, it's beautiful. And Gladys, who's Andrew's grandmother.
She's the filmmaker's grandma and Eden's great-grandma.
And they go around the British Isles. They have a little bit of time off, but they go visiting different areas. They start off at Bexhill-on-Sea. They go up to Scotland. They go to Southport. They go
to the incredibly remote bits of Scotland where Granny and Eden have to go back because they'll die of cold, and he continues on his own.
He breaks his leg. Doesn't he? Breaks his.
Yeah, he breaks his ankle. Yeah. See, we're getting nostalgic.
But it's about. It's about. I think it's about 18 months. But it's just got it really captures the sort of. I don't know, what would you say? English traditions within there. There's a lot of humour in there, and at the heart of it is this beautiful relationship. And I think the film sort of gave birth because Andrew Kotting had said that he wanted his great-grandmother and Eden to have a relationship, and I don't think they'd had much time together before this. So it was sort of, he devised this plan for them, and it's just.
And it was also, wasn't it, that the great-granny, I think, was 85, and he felt she didn't have long to live, and they thought Eden wouldn't have long to live, but actually Eden, we think, is still alive.
Yeah, she's still. I think she's an artist.
An artist.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you, but already from two films, I can see patterns in what you like. I mean, again, I think there's that kind of tone poem almost.
Yeah.
The music, and it's a portrait of people, but it's also a portrait of a country, isn't it?
Yeah.
So
and
that was a portrait of.
Again, they are poems. Carol's a poem to Manchester. Yeah. This feels like a poem to the British Isles and a poem to his daughter and his grandmother. But
if you want a regular narrative, do not watch the Maxine Peake documentary.
But there's a humour through them, and there's a surrealness, and they're anarchic, and that's what...
I mean, that's what they've got, haven't they? They almost remind... It's kind of easy to forget how funny British people are and can be.
Yeah, we're very funny. We're hilarious.
Really funny, and just kind of slight... Well, some of...
Well, yeah, we're in Sheffield. The funny buggers over here, I know that one.
But it is really kind of... It has got that surrealist thing as well, hasn't it? And I think one of the things about that film as well is that the people that, given the wrong people directing, you could end up taking the piss out of them.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what...
You know,
and then there's another film that will come up, The Moon and Sledgehammer, and it's how they're handled as well, and the love and the care that they're done, and the investment in the people that are the subjects of the film that really, you know, gets to your heart. Because they could be a Mickey take, or they could be patronising or demeaning, but they're not. They sort of take in that warts and all with a lot of love, and the observation is fantastic.
Is Gladys, when you're watching it, do you think of your great-granddad?
I suppose
tell us a bit about your great-granddad.
Well, my granddad Jim, he was my step-granddad. So my mum's dad died when she was 8, and my nan remarried. I can say this now because he got very upset. I didn't realise one day, because my granddad was actually 15 years younger than my nan, and I'd said in an interview once about this, and he rung up and went, "Oh, I've had everybody ringing me from Leyland Motors going, I didn't realise you were a child kiddie snatcher and all that," you know, and he got very upset about it. And you don't think, you know, I didn't think it was a big issue, but so he was 25 and my nan was 40, and my granddad was in the Communist Party, and they met because they were both very political. And he was just an amazing influence, really. For me, you know, taught me about self-education. You know, spent the last, before he retired, he worked at Leyland Motors in Leyland, obviously, you know, on the assembly line, but he'd always been self-educated. He was fanatical about politics and about communism, and, you know, him and Nan used to go on a coach to the Eastern Bloc. You know, that was their holiday, off they go in the 70s, like you did. If coach would pick them up for Norwich. They told me once they went through Wigan, picked a bloke up in his boiler suit with his snap box, and that was it. And off they went to Russia. They said he didn't have any luggage with him, just his passport and his snap box, and he was still in his overall from... Oh, communist, you got to love him. Anyway...
you ended up living with
I lived with him. When I was 15, my mum met this guy and she moved then to... He lived in Horwich, near Bolton, a little sort of satellite town of Bolton. My mum met this guy who I didn't particularly see eye to eye. Again, politically, I didn't see eye to eye with him, and it was a bit contentious in the house. So my mum moved over with him, and I just sort of said to my granddad, "Can I move in with you till I sort of finish my A-levels and decide what to do?" And that was at 15, and I was still there till I was 21. And even when I went to drama school, I still came back and stayed with him over the summer holidays. And then, and he passed away about 3 years ago now. He was 85 when he went, but he was just really inspirational. He was very cautious about everything I did. You know, he would be turning his grave, not his grave, you know, cremated, but he would turn his grave now about me being politically sort of very vocal. He used to say to me, "Please, you know, keep stum, your career, that, you know, they'll get you.
What, Jim did?
Oh, yeah. Because he spent most of his life being sacked from jobs, you know, selling a Morning Star, He was sacked, he was this, he was that, you know, but he said, "Well, it's easy for me, I could get another job." He said, "But you're in the acting, once you've done it, you're out," you know, so he was very protective in that way, you know.
And
so in a strange way, when he died, it was quite liberating. I mean, I was always vocal, but then when he sort of passed away in a funny way, it was quite liberating, because I didn't feel I was upsetting him by being more vocal. You know what I mean?
And when did he die?
So it's just over 3 years ago now.
Is that all?
Yeah.
And so did you feel in a way you were kind of taking over what's the expression?
His mantle. But I just think he was such... I mean, I've got an older sister, and she's in the police force, so obviously she wasn't as influenced by him as I was.
You can get a lefty cop as Maxine Peake.
Really? Show me one. No, I'm joking. No, I'm being facetious, sorry. But yeah, I don't know, we just... and he, you know, he's very concerned about me. I remember him when I said, he said to me, for God's sake, when I got in at Raja and I got a scholarship, paid for by the Daily Mail, I'm just going to put that out there. So I'm a complete hypocrite. I've been very open about this, but yeah, I got a scholarship. It was fees and maintenance. I couldn't have gone, you know, when we be politics then. Rather, see ya, I'm off. You know, I had that Morning Star, I'm off to the big city. But, and I
Paul Day could get free tickets to every show you do.
You know, his son's a director, James Decker. Theatre
Really?
director, yeah. Yeah. Anyway.
Don't know what to say.
And I don't know what to say to that. But I remember my granddad saying to me, for God's sake, when you go to drama school, do not say you live on a council estate. Do not say you live on a... Well, when I got there, I was probably, according to everybody else in my year, I was one of the richest kids in that. You know, everyone had a terrible sob story. And I remember coming back and going, oh, I'm all right, Granddad. They must have live on the street. You know. It was that thing that drama students do, because they think...
Lie.
Well, they lie, because they think the poorer the background, the better the actor you must be. And then, you know, then it comes to the third year, and you go, I thought your parents had passed away in a tragic car accident, but here they are, seeing your third year show.
So, like, did Eddie Redmayne tell you that he was
No, Eddie Redmayne, I've worked with Eddie Redmayne, and he's absolutely, can I put... Because I'm not into this posh bashing.
Yeah.
He's absolutely...
You started it.
I know. He's absolutely... He's a lovely young man.
Yeah, and that other posh one
Benedict
you really like as
Cumberbatch,
well.
I'm not so sure about Tom Hiddleston,
Yeah.
but I know... And Benedict Cumberbatch is a lovely young
That's
man.
2 out of 3. That is how tolerant Maxine is.
Yeah.
Let's go and watch a bit more of Gallivant. It's the first time you realise, isn't it, that Eden is actually fantastically bright when you see that bit, because beforehand you've just seen her really kind of making noises, haven't you? It's just so... what I love about this film is that it's kind of really arty and full of beautiful images, but it's telling an incredibly human story, isn't it?
And it's not... It isn't... I can't... One of my pet hates is pretension. I can't bear pretentiousness, and that isn't... You know what I mean? And there's that fine line with art,
and it so easily
isn't it?
could be, though.
Yeah, and it really isn't, you know. As long as something's got a heart and it's honest, you know, you can... That's what pulls it away from, you know, takes it from the edge of that, and that really has got, you know, it's got a big heart in it.
It's got a massive heart and massive relationship.
Yeah.
And they're not, I mean, I'm not exactly a film expert, but there are not that many documentaries I know where you combine art with that huge heart.
Well, it's like the alcohol years. It's their own... they're not adhering to any structure, to any formula, you know what I mean? They're not... they're doing their own thing. It really is somebody's... You know, it's unique. Like Carol is a unique filmmaker. Andrew Kotting's a unique filmmaker. They're not going, I'm going to make a documentary in the form. You know, I suppose it's that, I think now everyone falls into the trap of a film's got to be put into a pigeonhole, hasn't it? It's got to be marketed. What is it? What's the genre? And that is documentary, but then again, it's a very different style. It is art, it is poetry, it is documentary, but they're very much their own things.
Did you like poetry when you were a kid?
I did, but again, it was it was being able to admit that I did. It's like country dancing. I had to do country dancing at school. It used to absolutely mortify me. Doing the gay garden backwards and forwards. I used to slightly get a sweat on.
Yeah.
Dancing. I think it's because I was a big kid.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So poetry was a bit like that. I loved it, but I didn't quite know how to sort of admit that I did.
When you say you were a big kid, how big a kid were you?
Ooh, big.
You were?
I think before
back in the day.
Back in the day.
No,
I was big. When I was about 23. I mean, not a kid, I suppose, at 23, but I was 15, just over 15 stone. Fat knacker. No.
It's good going, that.
And I'm, you know, and
Victoria Wood, she cast you in Dinner Ladies, yeah?
Yeah.
And she had a big impact on you, both in casting you and as a director-writer, but also in what she said to you, didn't she?
She'd had a massive impact before I'd even met her, you know. She was the reason, looking like I did when I was young, and I wasn't always, you know, I was always a chunky, big-boned.
Still gorgeous.
People, or bonny. Oh, she's bonny. You know, I think it may, you know, but so there's a lot of, and then you see Victoria Wood, and she wasn't, you know, I wanted to be a performer, wanted to be an actor, but I didn't look like, you know, most of the people I was watching on screen and theatre. And then somebody like Victoria Wood came along, and who was amazingly talented and blew everyone else out the water, but had a very unique style. Wasn't, you know, a skinny rake. So she had I connected to her from quite an early age and, became quite obsessed. And actually before I became an actor, what I wanted to be was a comedian. But I was sort of too scared and too lazy to do my own stuff. And I thought, well, an actor, somebody else writes it for you, don't you? And you sort of say it. But at one point when it took me 3 years to get into drama school, and I'd applied for lots of drama schools and got in, and at one point I think I'm going to have to, I can't do this anymore. I can't afford to do it, keep auditioning. And I thought, well, I'm going to have to maybe try and think about, writing, going in. So, and then on the third year I did get into RADA, so then I went off on that route. But she had a massive influence on me. And then when I did Dinner Ladies, she sat me down one day and said, look, you're big, you're blonde, you're northern, you're going to get, which I've said, I've said a lot of times, which is you're going to get typecast, because she felt, she had in a way, which I always found quite shocking, because she had this amazing career which she completely cultivated herself and completely changed the face of comedy, not just for women. So that's, and I'd had that at drama school. I remember I had a teacher who called me in one day and said, you'll never play Juliet unless you lay off the chips. To which I went, I don't want to play Juliet, she's a wimp. So that was, I always, you know what I mean?
There's
so,
a second bit to that, isn't there? She's a wimp.
What did it? She's a wimp. She dies at the end.
Yeah. Fucking dies at 13.
Yeah, I know exactly. Killing yourself for love. Get over it. There's plenty more fish, as the saying goes. So and then when Victoria sort of said it to me, I thought, right, I've got to sort myself out. And
did that have an impact on your career?
Yeah,
and did you resent the fact that had an impact on your career, that you had to lose that weight to get different parts? Or did that seem...
Yeah, and I always remember like a friend at drama school going, yeah, but you should stay the size you are and really try. You should make that difference. You should break down those doors and go, big girls can get these parts. And I sort of went, I want to be here forever, you know what I mean? We're in such an industry that's so sizist. Yeah. And I remember getting feedback, agent trying to get me in the door for things and people saying, oh, but we want somebody normal. And I remember the first job, which I didn't end up doing, I went to, and I look back now and I'm sort of, but I remember getting really offended. It was the first job I ever got offered, but I went off to, after Dinner Ladies, but I went to Bolton Octagon actually to do a play because I really wanted to do theatre, was Fat Peggy in East is East. And then it was Fat Mandy, I went for an audition for Fat Mandy in Emmerdale. Then it was Fat Sharon in somewhere else. And I just thought, oh my God. So that's when I went, that's 3 fats in a row, I'm going to have to... But then even when I lost the weight, it was still difficult. And I still see myself as a big, once a big person, always a big, and I'm proud of that.
And is there a positive
to
that? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, what happened when I lost the weight was I felt I'd lost my armour.
Yeah.
I had a bit of a defence mechanism. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was the funny big girl, and nobody, and then when that, and people look at you very differently.
Did you feel harder?
What, once I'd lost the weight?
No, like when you had the weight, did you feel tougher?
No, I didn't feel I just felt people backed up. People don't give you, I always thought people don't give you as much sympathy when you're bigger. You know what I mean? You're not allowed to get upset, nobody really cares. That song, Big Girls Don't Cry, yeah. I just thought, oh, that's it. Big girls actually don't cry because nobody gives a shit. You know what I mean? But it did always feel like nobody really gave you sympathy because you were big so you could deal with things. And usually that's why people end up a bit bigger, because they comfort eating, because they can't deal with things.
God, that's rubbish. This would never happen under a Corbyn government, would it?
No.
No.
We'd all be eating proper food.
Yeah.
We'd be able to afford proper food.
Yeah.
And we'd not be big. Exactly.
Going back to Gallivant, you've started making a film, haven't you? Well, have you started making 2 films? Well,
I did. I've directed a short film, and then I did a thing for The Guardian.
Yeah. Sod The Guardian. Let's hear about the first.
So I did. I got approached by a film company who said, "Would you be interested in directing a feature film?" I've done one music video my entire life for a band of friend Simon Aldridge called Cherry Ghost, and I said, "Oh, I'd love to." And then we got the BFI involved, and the BFI said, "Well, before we give you money to make a feature, we better make sure that you can actually do it." So they gave me some money to make a short, and a actress from Huddersfield called Katie Wimpenny wrote the feature, and then she went away and wrote a little short, which I directed probably about over a month ago now.
Do you like it?
I loved it. I mean, the film, Do you
like being the boss?
Yeah. Well, it's not being the boss. I like the responsibility. I didn't feel like I was the boss, but it's nice to have that. You feel like you've got responsibility. I liked having responsibility for the actors, and I felt as an actor sometimes what I miss is that a director really looks after. I hope that I looked after. Two wonderful young actors were Tom Gibbons and Charlie May Clark, and you know, they're sort of in their early mid-20s. But it wasn't about being the boss. It was just about feeling responsible, and actually watching them in front of the camera, I was going, oh, thank God I don't have to do that. You know, it's sort of given me a different slant on acting. I've got more respect for acting now.
That's
and
good.
I don't know whether I want to carry on doing it. But don't tell me agent that, else I'll be in big trouble.
Is that a scoop? Is that genuine?
No, I mean, I don't think I'm not a good enough by any means director yet to contemplate packing it in, but it's something I'd like to carry on doing.
Yeah, if there are any journos in the house, you heard it here
Maxine
first.
Peake, yeah.
Let's go on to the next film, Wonderful, Horrible Life of Leni Riefenstahl. Amazing. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, that Leni Riefenstahl, when she did the underwater shots, was 99 at the time.
I think she was 8, because she died when she was 103 in 2003. So she got a diving qualification and she should have been under 50, but she was 70 and lied and said she was under 50.
And when she did that,
and she was diving for 8, so she was 88 then, because she said we've been diving now for 18 years.
88, apologies for the lie.
So
I mean, incredible woman and incredible ambivalence about her and her life. Why did you choose that, and why are you so fascinated?
I'm absolutely fascinated with her as a filmmaker, with her as obviously her talent. And I remember getting it. My granddad had told me about her, and he said that, you know, I remember, you know, he was saying about there was this amazing Nazi filmmaker, Leni Riefenstahl. And I remember doing I don't know I'm doing that because it was before Googling. That's what we all do now. And I got this DVD, and I remember we watched it together. And my initial fascination was actually at her as an actress and how physical she was. You know, she did these films about mountaineering. She was a dancer initially. And she was on the tube one day, and she sees this poster for this film. I can't remember, some Spirit of the Mountains or something. And she goes and she goes to watch it, and then she comes across one of the actors who was in it in a hotel and says, I'm going to be in the next film with you. Writes to the director, who looks at a picture completely sort of is bowled over by her. And to be honest, I haven't missed out that she was a Nazi sympathiser and Hitler's filmmaker. But to be honest, if I'm absolutely honest, that was the first thing that really sort of grabbed my sort of attention. And I knew about her history, but just it's that determination that people have, and that sort of dedication to the art that she, you know, and it's still quite ambivalent about her, but she must have known what's going on. There's no way when those people say, I didn't know the true extent of...
For those who don't know, she made the film called Triumph
of Worlds, and then she made the Olympiad as well, which she's one... You know, she is classed as one of the greatest filmmakers of all time.
Yeah, it was Hitler's official propaganda film.
Yeah.
But the incredible thing about it is that it could have been made by Eisenstein, couldn't it?
She was revolutionary with camera techniques, with ways of shooting. You see the guy diving there, and you know what she'd done to make it even more beautiful. She'd reversed the film footage. She was one of the first people to lay down a track. I mean, I think Goebbels was infuriated by her because she'd spent so much, you know, of the Nazi money on making these films, endless. But all these revolutionary shooting styles that she'd sort of, you know, had created, and in, you know, we're talking in the sort of 30s.
And a woman.
And
so, like, you had things that were like montages from Eisenstein, and then you had stuff that was like epic Hollywood as well, didn't you?
Beautiful. Actually, aesthetic was extraordinary. I mean, and it's interesting, you know, as she went on, she then ended up she did a lot of photography and made films with the Nubian tribe, and, you know, people sort of accused her of then continuing a sort of fascist...
Fetishization
and that's fascistic ideals of, you know, the body beautiful. But she did have she did have an amazing eye, but you think at what cost?
And there's a great documentary, because I couldn't see all of that the other day, so I panicked and started watching lots of documentaries, and there was a German documentary that was made for the 100th, because I think that film was released.
Yeah, that's 90. I think that's 90.
I think, for her 100th birthday, and there was a German interviewer who was talking to her, and it was incredible because at 95 she started using all the editing equipment, the Avids and stuff like that, and she'd got herself, stuff that I wouldn't have a clue
Well, that's it. She edited it herself. She was an absolute perfectionist.
And she said, didn't she, that she was so obsessed with her art. That was kind of her excuse, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And did you believe the excuse was that
No.
she was never...
You can't quite... I believe a doggedness, I believe an obsession with her art, but I don't believe for a minute that she didn't know what was... And it's difficult because there's a point where you think, and part of me went, well, why didn't she, when her other friends were leaving, why didn't she go to Hollywood? But then you think, as a woman, would she have had any currency over there as a director?
Yeah.
But she'd stuck with it. And it's fascinating when she's talking to the interviewer about the first Trying for Wills and then the film that she makes before, which is quite sort of amateur in comparison. And he starts talking to her. And she said, it's not a propaganda film, but she's more concerned, actually, that not that he's saying that both films are propaganda films, that he's talking about the first film, and she said it's so badly shot. She's not even...
She's obsessed with that.
Yeah, she's obsessed with the way it's shot. And so even now, she's... And there's entries in Goebbels' diaries about her being there, but she gets very sort of animated and said, I wasn't there, it's all lies, and starts pushing it. She's just like to push that poor interviewer around a lot, sort of. But her artistry is something that can't be denied. Yeah. As a filmmaker and as a woman.
Do you think she was on the wrong side of history if she hadn't been?
I don't believe for a minute she was I think she would have she was so obsessed with her craft and her art. I think whoever would have been in power, she would have. What do I know? But I don't believe that she was a fascist, as in, I think it's what suited her. It suited her. She got untold, finances to make the film she wanted to make. So
you reckon she could have won an election for Theresa May?
With that?
Almost.
What, running through wheat, a naked woman running through wheat fields? Is that what it would have been? Jesus Christ. Anyway, that's an image none of us want in our head, is Theresa May naked. I'm sorry about that. I've not put you off your tea.
James, I think, because James is behind organising everything, and I think I've slightly bollocksed up on time. So rather than having the second Triumph of the Will, which is incredible, so if you've not seen it, go and see it. I think we should go straight to the Moon and the Sledgehammer. Is that okay? Has anyone in the audience seen this film? I'd not seen it till yesterday. It's amazing. And Maxine Peake is going to tell you why. Okay. Puts the pressure on, eh?
So it's about a family in Sussex.
The Pages.
Oily Page, who's the father, who I think was an engineer. The mother had died about 3 years previous to the film being made, and it says he's got his 2 daughters and 2 sons. So they sort of live off grid, really, don't they, in this forest. And it was made early 70s, and I think what's extraordinary about it is I don't think you would ever be able to make a documentary like it ever again, because I think how he gets so close to the family. And Mr. Page actually was a circus performer, so he has got that element of show about him. But it's just about the intricacies of this family that live outside society. And, there's complication in the family. There's some strange incestuous thing that may or may not be going on. But it's beautiful, and it's very poetic. He's very articulate, Mr. Page. They sort of all are. There's something about all of them that their use of language is extraordinary, and it does. I suppose I never thought, it's only when you said before, they do all feel like some sort of poem, an ode to, and this is to a past way of life, well. Isn't it?
And in that film, one of the sons, I think it's Peter, is obsessed with steam.
Yeah.
And he hates the coal age, doesn't he?
Yeah.
And he wants to go back to steam.
Well, it's the oil age, it's the coal age, and then the oil age, he's not looking forward to the... But it is about people, working with what they've got, that sort of, I suppose, old English ethos that we had. And again, a connection with the land, a pagan element running through that... I suppose there's a slight envy when you watch it that I think, I don't know, there's still part of me that would like to sort of live like, I know it's not, it wouldn't be an easy existence, but there's something very magical and quite spiritual about it.
And it's a celebration of work as well, isn't it? Because they're incredible craftsmen.
Yeah, and they can fix anything.
Yeah.
You know, nothing's a problem.
The amazing spanners and stuff
and it's that
like
thing,
that.
and again, it's like you were saying, if somebody else had got their hands on it, it's Philip Trevelyan, who was Julian Trevelyan, who was a poet, and his mum was what's her name? She was a ceramicist, the guy who made the film. So he's come through that sort of
And he
artistic.
became a farmer in the end.
Yeah, he's a farmer in North Yorkshire.
Yeah.
I don't know. I know this is South Yorkshire. I'm not doing where it's somewhere, but he's a farmer in North Yorkshire somewhere now, sort of an organic, or was up to recently, I don't know. But yeah, it's interesting. It's one of those I give to people for presents, you know. It's one, and I'd give to a friend and lent it to a friend actually this time and not got it back. So I bought the recent one that come out with a Q&A. It had after Moon and Sledgehammer. And I didn't realise this, and on the disc that's after, they filmed a Q&A that they'd done at the Curzon Cinema, I think in the 90s, and Andrew Kotting's on there, and Ben Rivers, who I'm massive fans of their work, and Andrew Kotting was saying, who obviously did Gallivant, that it was one of the films that informed his work, which I never knew. So it's all that...
He actually says, I think, bringing it full circle, if he was going to take a film on a desert island... If he'd nicked the BBC format, he'd take that one.
But it's so detailed, it's so rich.
The camera is so beautiful when it looks like it spends loads of time on the tiniest insects, doesn't it? And the tiniest bits of work. And it also has those surreal bits that you have in the other films as well. Like when one of the son's hats, he can make it pop up off his head.
And Mr. Page puts on a gas mask and pretends to be an elephant. And there's sort of weird... Yeah. And you could sort of go, these are... But there's not for a moment you're laughing at them.
No, and then you realise that they're incredibly wise.
Yeah, extremely
wise.
Bit where he has a brilliant... you have to find time to make time, and there's these brilliant little quotes that actually you can sort of take away.
And then he looks at all the townspeople and say, well, they never find time, do they? I don't understand their life. They only come home at the end of the day. Surely you want to be at home in the day living your life.
Yeah.
Look, I've been really, really bad, and I apologise because it should go over to you now. So I'm going to cut you off. Like that, at the knees,
all right.
And ask people from the audience if you've got questions. If not, I will happily go and ask Maxine some more. Would you like to make a film like that while we're waiting?
I'd love to make a film, but I just wonder if are we too savvy now with, you know, the advent of the smartphone. Everyone's film now. Everyone's very. Oh no. Oh,
if we've got people...
there's somebody here.
Oh, sorry. Sorry, we can't see very clearly here, but yeah.
Well, there was a great communist and socialist, Betty Tebbs, died earlier this year.
Yes, I know Betty.
I know you do. And I wondered if you, in your filmmaking, a documentary about Betty in the offing?
I have. It's funny because a lot of people have sort of said, you know, about making something, either a theatre piece or a film about Betty's life, but not at the moment. In fact, a couple of years ago, somebody got in touch with me about writing a book about Betty, and I said, well, Betty's written... This is Betty Tebbs. She was an amazing woman from Manchester who was women's rights, CND, amazing socialist. She did so much work, and she passed away beginning of this year, yeah. And she was 98, and she was a real inspiration, especially around the Northwest, but and worldwide, you know, she was. But and somebody did approach me, a publishing company, and I said, well, Betty has got her own biography that she's written herself, and I sent it to this lady, and then she came back and said, I don't know, it's a fantastic biography, but she said it wasn't for them, so that's really unfortunate. But maybe it's something. You know what it's like trying to get anything political made, though? It's not, especially if it's anything sort of leaning towards the left, people are not always easy to sort of back or finance it, you know. But, yeah, it would be something worth definitely looking into.
Any more? I can see a man on the second row at the end. Have we got any women or any people higher, or... Yeah?
Yeah.
I'm ready.
Hey... There's a woman! There's a woman!
Oh!
Hello.
Hello.
Hello, my name's Jane. I'm a film producer. I'm actually doing a project which is weirdly, it's a bit like a Desert Island Discs for filmmakers to list their top 10 films that have inspired them and taught them things. And I wonder, Maxine, with you being asked to do this panel, what have you got out of this in revisiting those things that have inspired you or taught you? And also, what project would you say you've worked on that's taught you the most? Maybe the thing you've screwed up the most, or...
I think, and it's really interesting because going back to these films again, I mean, a lot of them I sort of saw in the 90s, and that Moon and Sledge I've seen quite a few times. Alcohol Years I've seen, you know, recently. Gallivant I hadn't actually seen again since I watched it the first time, and it had a big impact on me. But it's about the honesty of it, and when I sort of made the short film that I did recently, I think I was trying to be a bit cool, and I was going, oh yeah, I want it like a Roy Anderson, Cassavetes sort of, you know, that nonsense that you pitch yourself in, you know, when you go into meetings and try and pitch your idea. But going back to watch these, I thought what they all have running through them is a real sense of honesty and truth. And I thought that's all you can do as a filmmaker is tell your own story in the way, not try and emulate. And that's what I was sort of trying to do. So it's been a big... I feel like going back to them, I've been slightly rejuvenated and reminded of you know, those elements that it is about. It's the same with acting. It's just, you can only express yourself through your own voice. If you try and emulate somebody else or try and do it to someone else, it's not going to work, is it? It's a lesson in life, isn't it? You've just got to be yourself, really. So that's... But, and you were saying what?
The project that you feel you've done that maybe taught you most, maybe you screwed up on.
Oh, God. Did anybody see Bike Squad? Anyway, I don't want to talk about that. Cops on push bikes. Oh, come on, you've all seen it. No, I've done some, yeah, I learnt the most. Each job's really different, and each director's very different, and some directors you work with, you know, I always like to put my hands in the hands of the director. For me, that's what it's about. It's a collaboration. That's why I love working with people like Carol Morley. You know what I mean? Because it feels very organic, and you work together in creating a character and creating a scene, and she lets you play. So I suppose maybe working with Carol is one of those things that you just have a freedom, but there's parameters as well that you feel sort of, you know, comfortable and confident in. And I think actors don't take the mickey, because sometimes you can give actors, you know, a lot of rope. They can hang themselves. But, yeah, I think...
Who's hung themselves most? Are there other people waiting to ask questions? Great, sorry.
One of the things that strikes me about your choices was the surreal nature of the documentaries. I just wonder whether it was a conscious or subconscious decision to end up on a show like Shameless, which, with all its surrealism and real life kind of mixed with that whole kind of surreal, chaotic kind of...
I don't, to be honest, we didn't know what Shameless was when all I knew, it was a friend of mine, a brilliant actress called Christine Bottomley, who remains a great friend today, and she said to me, I've just auditioned for this thing called Shameless. She said, there's a character called Veronica. She said, I think you'd be brilliant for it. Thanks. And then I read it and went, cheeky cow. When I read the description, it said massive tits, nice tattoos. That's how Veronica was described in the first reading. And everyone just got overexcited because it was Paul Abbott. When Paul Abbott wrote anything, every actor went, oh my God, Paul Abbott's written something. We didn't even know what it was about. It was everybody, you know, because those writers are few and far between that you know you're in safe hands with. So, and I had to really push to get an audition for that. I kept knocking down doors and they were saying, no, we're not interested. And I was doing a job at the time, Early Doors, brilliant Craig Cash comedy set in a pub. And I was playing this character called Janice, and I had bleached hair and a really manky fur coat and a little pinstripe, what do you call it? Pencil skirt. Yeah. And I worked in Tantastic, so I had a really bad tan job. And I got a call from agent saying, Bev Keogh, the casting woman, will see you this afternoon. I said, well, I'm filming. She said, well, it's this afternoon or it's nothing. So we had this lovely unit driver called Wayne who used to drive everyone round, pick you up in the morning, take you home. And I said to Wayne, right, I'm off this afternoon. I've got one scene off. Can you run me up to Bev Keogh's offices and back? So I walked in. I mean, I think people literally thought I'd just come off this... A lady of the night had come through and knocked on the wrong door. So I went in and auditioned for it, you know. anyway, but dressed like that. And I think actually that's what got me the job, because I rocked up looking like that. But anyway, I digress as usual. But no, I didn't really realise. And actually, the first time we were shown some clips of it, I remember they said, we're going to show people stuff in the office. Does anybody want to go and see it? And I said to Anne-Marie Duff, are you going to come with me? And she said, I don't want to watch it. I'm warning you now, Maxine, it's not a good thing to do. And I went up to watch it with Jodie Latham and Jerry Kearns. I watched about 5 minutes of it and I burst into tears and ran out the room and I went, oh my God, my career's over. I thought it was the worst thing I'd ever seen. I thought it was like some kids' programme on acid. It was just all these jump cuts and it just looked crass and terrible. And then we handed it over to the public and they seemed to, you know,
Did you change your mind about it?
Yeah, of course I did. Flatteries goes everywhere. And I was thinking as an actor, it's none of your business what you think about things anyway.
But
and then I understood it.
Before the public liked it, had you come round to like it?
No, still thought it was bloody awful. But I'd only
So-
but you can't watch things, you can't watch, you know what I mean, you're in it, and all I could see was, oh my God, this is the biggest cartoony sort of panto performance I've ever done.
Yeah.
You know, but and then once you sort of get acclimatised to it, you go, of course it works. And then by the second series, I was going, oh, I can get bigger, do it bigger, be, you know, more monstrous, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it was very different. I mean, it's not now, obviously, but at its time, it definitely was a different beast. But yeah.
Any more for any more?
You all just won't go to the pub, don't you?
Yeah, if we're ignoring you, it's because we can't see you that well here. So, like shout outs, anything.
No.
Maxine does requests.
This is really sad, but I come from Horwich, and I know the Nevada, and I just wondered, like the Swan and stuff in Bolton, but I understand. From Horwich, Bolton was the place to go, but then from Bolton you went to Manchester, and it got bigger and bigger. So it was lovely to hear you talking about
Did you
that.
used to go to Nibblers?
I did.
Can I just tell you, Horwich had a nightclub with a cobbled dance floor. I'm saying no more. If it had been raining outside, it was a nightmare, especially if you didn't have no segs on your shoes. You were on your ass more times than... But I love Horwich. We used to go to Bolton sometimes in Manchester and then go, oh, should we just make it back to last orders in Horwich? Because, anyway. Oh, well, hiya.
Yeah, hiya.
Hiya.
So what you were saying about the things that these things have in common are like honesty, truth, human stories. I'm doing a PhD on class identity and rape culture and gender. So with that in mind, is that something that inspired you to take part in Three Girls, you know, about human stories and truth and voice?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, when the script came through, and you know, I'll admit there's a slight vanity as an actor, and I read it and went, oh, I'm not in it very much. Three girls, you know, and they sort of offered it. And then you go, just read it, go back and read it now for the story. And then there's certain things that you just go, I want to be part. And I found that as I've got older now, it's things I want to be part of. It's the stories you want to be involved in and the stories you want to tell rather than the parts. And sometimes you just go, oh, this is a brilliant part. But very rarely do you read something that goes, a brilliant part, but the story's not great. It's about being a part of something which I really enjoy, and that's why I love theatre, because you're in a team, you know, it's a group effort. But yeah, Three Girls, definitely, it felt a story that needed to be told, and I felt really passionate about being part of it. Yeah.
I'm so glad you mentioned that, because I thought it was absolutely fantastic.
But that's again, we had amazing...
And she wasn't even the best bit in it.
No. The young girls in it were extraordinary.
They were amazing,
but
weren't they?
Philippa Lawthorpe, the director, she was something else, and she really restored a lot of us, you know, quite a few of the older actors restored our faith in television, you know what I mean, and that... because there was a lot of care, and she said to us, and you know, she said to all the actors, I keep going on about this, same me says, oh, I'm not keen on pretentiousness, but she said, you know, you as actors, you are artists, and you should, because sometimes you do rock up and it's just like, stand over there, say your lines right, go on. You know, we do call ourselves warm props sometimes, because you know, you just get sort of prodded about, and can you say it faster, quicker, and can I go again? No, you can't, we've not time. Right, move on, you know, the camera's gone, and sometimes the skill of it seems to get lost because the schedules are tight, the budget's tight, but on jobs like that, again, there was so much heart in it.
Do you think our telly, I'm only going to ask this while you find another person to do the question, do you think telly here has not caught up with telly in America yet?
No.
Well,
we don't put the money in, do we? We don't put the... I mean, I'm
This
sure...
is a stopgap question.
I'm in trouble now, that's me, Tyler Carrero.
Yeah.
But I don't think... I mean, we still make... Don't get me wrong, we do still make some good telling. I think what we've got over here is brilliant writers.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I don't think most of the channels now don't invest like they should do. Well, then.
I just love hearing your voice, so it's fine. You're talking. Lots of people who are saying I'm going to see you today from East London send their love. So it's just the northeast. So I'm going to send that to you. You talk a lot about the battles that you've been through as an actor in terms of class, in terms of sizeism and everything else. I mean, if you had a magic wand and you had one wish, what would you wish to be different about the industry that you're in?
What I'd wish it to be different is I wish, for one, the class element of it, but then we're riddled through. Everything that's wrong with our industry is wrong with our society, to be honest. The race issue is terrible. We are still so, we do not represent the beautiful, amazing, vibrant diversity in our country on our screens, and that to me is heartbreaking. And there's so many stories out there, and we're not telling them for what I don't understand what reasons, and I do think the business is still completely riddled with that. It's so archaic and old-fashioned, and it's not moving on, and that's what I think young people are doing now. We're getting on YouTube and doing their own stuff, are sort of saying, well, this is not representing me. Why should I watch it?
Why is it not moving on?
Because it's money, isn't it? I think they think they've got a captive. I don't know. It's money. It's the press, it's the media, it's Murdoch. There's a lot of elements in there. It's fear, it's ignorance. I just think we're so beholden to the right-wing press in every element of it, you know what I mean? And broadcasters that should know better and shouldn't be lying over, rolling over. They should be going down fighting, I think. Anyway. Say, has anybody got any part-time work? Nice little coffee shop. Very polite.
Tell them what you think.
Tell them what I think. Yeah. Oh, I wouldn't want to do that. Might get me in
Sick
trouble.
You're holding back.
Sorry, was there someone?
Hello. I'm over here. Hello. Now that you and Jeremy Corbyn are best friends,
yeah.
I'm going to ask you a question about leftist politics, but documentary related too. So I'm wondering, are there any, because you sort of said it's really difficult to get political stuff made, especially if it's on the left, but are there any documentaries that you think are really good examples of explicitly political work, that managed to slip through the net or whatever? I'm also interested to know if you have any particularly mainstream, sort of quite formulaic documentaries that you like.
Mainstream form. Interesting. One of the documentaries I suggested tonight was The Revolution Will Not Be Televised. I mean, again, was the Hugo Chavez. I don't know. They couldn't find clips, or you just didn't want to talk about it, Simon.
No, we censored
I mean, being
her.
a Guardian
we've
writer,
actually got
was
it
it
in
too
the bag.
contentious for you?
Yeah. She has been hammering me for a couple of hours over the Guardian. Right.
Yeah. Simon's one of the good guys, aren't you, though, Simon?
No.
No, all right. But to me, that was, whatever you think about Hugo Chavez, that is an amazing documentary, because what happens is there's an Irish film crew filming in Hugo Chavez and his government, and the coup takes place. And they're in the inner sanctum, and they're witnessing it all. But what they're also showing is the propaganda and the media machine outside, what they actually say is happening with inside, when there's a documentary crew in there filming it as it is. So it's a brilliant insight to how media works and how the propaganda machine. So that was one that I did suggest this evening. But mainstream documentary.
We can come back with that next year.
Can we do that? They won't have me back next year. I won't
Just
be working next year. You'll be like, Maxine.
You'll have to do it.
But I'm trying to think mainstream documentaries. There must be. Come on, Simon.
What, me?
Yeah.
I wasn't asked,
think.
it was you.
I know.
Yeah. I actually thought the OJ one was brilliant. Did you
That
see
was,
that?
yeah, fantastic.
7.5 hours of brilliance. I've been ordered to wrap up. They're like doing a sign to us that looks as if they're going to cut our throat.
Is it that one?
Which is, yeah. So what are you doing next, by the way?
What, this evening? I'm going for a curry.
We're going for a drink, aren't we?
Yeah, going for a curry.
Work-wise.
Oh, work-wise. I'm not...
You're not allowed to say?
No. Well, I don't know. It's that difficult. I'm doing a film about a historical event, I think that, in the north.
Okay.
And then I'm doing something for... Oh, see, it's not been nice. And then I've written another theatre piece. I'm sorry, I'm getting so much... I get in trouble. But at the end of the year, a film's coming out that I did that's set in Sheffield. Called Funny Cow, which is by Tony Pitts, who's a writer from Sheffield, and it's about a rise of a female comedian in the 70s and 80s. But Sheffield wouldn't give us any money to make it, so we had to make it in Leeds. I'm so sorry.
Ooh.
Ooh.
Yeah, I just want to thank Maxine for coming tonight, being great tonight, choosing brilliant films, and I want to thank you all for coming because you've been a really good audience, great questions, and thank you.